Dude, you there who made it to this video? I'm sure you really like video games, right? And in this massive industry with hundreds of thousands of games, we have so many options to play that it's actually hard to choose good games to spend our time on. But among all these thousands of games, there are those that truly stand out and leave a mark on everyone. And that's exactly why I decided to make this video, to talk about games that are above average and must-play titles for every gamer. Of course, guys, these games might not please everyone, but the fact is they're above the curve, and whether you like them or not, they've earned their place in gaming history. So get comfortable wherever you are, grab your cup of coffee, and let's get into the list. Far Cry 3. Man, we have to start with the game that basically defined the modern open-world shooter. Far Cry 3 is just iconic. I remember the first time I set foot on the Rook Islands. The vibrancy of the jungle was insane for the time. But let's be real, the reason we all stayed was Vas Montenegro. He is hands down one of the best villains ever written. That definition of insanity monologue still gives me chills and makes you feel genuinely uneasy every time he's on screen. The gameplay introduced that loop we see everywhere now, clearing out outposts, hunting animals to craft bigger wallets. Seriously, why did I need 3 sharks to make a wallet? And that feeling of progression from a scared tourist to a jungle warrior. Jason Brody's arc is actually pretty dark if you pay attention, watching him slowly lose his humanity to the island's violence. It's a transformation that feels earned because you're the one pulling the trigger. What I didn't love? Maybe the second island felt a bit less inspired than the first, and the radio tower fatigue started here. But honestly, diving off a cliff with a wingsuit while an explosion goes off behind you, that's pure gaming bliss. It's that rare kind of game where the world feels like your personal playground, and the chaos is entirely up to you. If you haven't played this, you're missing a foundational piece of gaming history. 2. Detroit Become Human. Alright, let's pivot to something that'll make you question your own soul. Detroit Become Human is Quantic Dream at its peak. It's not a game in the traditional sense of jumping and shooting. It's a massive, branching narrative that actually makes your choices matter. I've had friends play this where their entire ending was the complete opposite of mine, and that's the magic of it. It forces you to make split-second moral calls that genuinely haunt you after you turn off the console. You play as 3 different androids, but Connor, the detective, stole the show for me. His chemistry with Lieutenant Anderson is peak writing, showing a relationship that evolves based entirely on how human you decide to be. The game tackles heavy themes like segregation, consciousness, and what it means to be alive. The graphics are still mind-blowing. The facial animations are so detailed, you can see the micro-expressions of doubt and fear in the characters' eyes. The only downside? Sometimes the metaphors are a bit on the nose, and the quick time events can get a little frantic when you just want to see the story play out. But man, the tension during the interrogation scenes is real. You'll be sweating over a dialogue choice, I promise, knowing that one wrong word could end a character's journey forever. It's an emotional roller coaster that every gamer needs to ride at least once to see how far storytelling has come. Number 3. Mass Effect Legendary Edition. If you want to feel like the lead of your own Star Wars level trilogy, this is it. Mass Effect Legendary Edition is the ultimate sci-fi package. We're talking 3 massive RPGs where your choices in the first game can literally haunt you 40 hours later in the third. It's a level of continuity that almost no other franchise has dared to attempt, making every conversation feel like it carries the weight of the galaxy. The world building is just top tier. You're not just flying a ship, you're managing political tensions between alien races that have centuries of beef. But the real heart is the squad. Garrus, Tali, Liara, they aren't just NPCs, they're your best friends, your family, and sometimes your love interests. I legit felt a genuine sense of loss and a post-game depression when the credits rolled on the final game because I had to say goodbye to them. The combat in the first game was always a bit clunky, but the remaster fixed a lot of that jank.
It's much snappier now, blending tactical powers with solid third-person shooting. The only thing that still bugs me is the Mako driving, if you know, you know, and the scanning for minerals can be a bit of a snooze. But the story, the Reapers, the Citadel, it's a masterpiece. It's a space opera where you hold the baton and your legacy is written in the stars.
Number 4, Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice. Let's talk about a game that'll test your blood pressure. Sekiro Shadows Die Twice is From Software showing off. It's different from Dark Souls because you can't just grind levels or hide behind a shield. You have to master the clash of steel. It's a game that demands your absolute presence. You can't autopilot your way through a single encounter without being punished. The parry mechanic is the most satisfying thing I've ever felt in a combat system. That clink, clink, clash rhythm feels like a deadly dance where one mistake means death. When you finally beat a boss like Ishin, the Sword Saint, after 50 tries, that's a stand up and scream moment that few hobbies can provide. You feel like a true shinobi, moving with a precision you didn't know you had. The world of Ashina is beautiful but brutal, full of verticality that makes exploration feel fresh. Wolf is a much more direct protagonist than what we're used to in these games, and his loyalty to the divine heir gives the struggle a very human heart. Look, it's hard. It's throw your controller across the room hard, and there's no multiplayer to call for help, so it's just you and your sword against the world. But that's exactly why it's a must-play. It teaches you discipline and the beauty of persistence. It's the ultimate get-good experience that rewards you with a feeling of true mastery that sticks with you long after you finish the game. Number 5. Resident Evil 7 Biohazard. Man, I remember when everyone thought Resident Evil was dead after the 6th game turned into a generic action movie. Then Resident Evil 7 dropped, and it was like a cold bucket of water to the face. Switching to first person was a genius move. It made everything so much more personal and suffocating. Walking into that Baker plantation for the first time, dude, the atmosphere was so thick with rot and decay you could almost smell it through the screen. The gameplay went back to its roots, limited ammo, inventory management, and puzzles that actually make you think. But the real stars are the Baker family. Jack Baker chasing you through the hallways, screaming your name is pure nightmare fuel. It's a masterclass in tension, and even though the game gets a bit more action-heavy toward the end in the salt mines, those first few hours are some of the best horror ever made. What didn't I like? The enemy variety is a bit lacking. You're mostly fighting the molded over and over. But the sheer terror of being trapped in that house and the mystery of what happened to Mia keeps you glued to the screen. It's the game that saved the series and proved that Resident Evil is at its best when it's making you scared to turn the next corner. Number 6. Red Dead Redemption 2. Alright, let's talk about a game that isn't just a game. It's a life simulator. Red Dead Redemption 2 is Rockstar showing the world how much detail you can cram into a digital space. The world is so alive, it's almost scary. Animals hunt each other, NPCs have full daily routines, and the weather changes the way your horse behaves. It's a slow burn experience, and honestly, you have to be in the right headspace for it because everything takes time. The story, man. Arthur Morgan might be the best protagonist ever written. Watching his journey, his inner conflict, and his relationship with the charismatic but crumbling Dutch van der Linde is heartbreaking. You really feel the end of the outlaw era closing in on them. The gameplay is heavy and deliberate. You have to clean your guns, eat, and brush your horse. It makes you feel connected to Arthur in a way few games manage. The downside, the mission design can be a bit restrictive. If you step 2 inches off the path Rockstar intended, you'll get a mission failed screen. And yeah, the looting animations take forever. But when you're riding across the plains at sunset with that incredible soundtrack playing, you forgive everything.
It's a monumental achievement in storytelling that will stay with you for years. 7. Doom Eternal. If Red Dead is a slow walk, Doom Eternal is a 200-mile-per-hour sprint through hell while on fire. This game is pure adrenaline. It's not just a shooter, it's a combat puzzle. You can't just stand still and shoot, you have to constantly manage your resources. Need health? Glory kill. Need ammo? Chainsaw. Need armor? Flame belch. Once you get into the flow state, you feel like an unstoppable god of death. The gameplay is perfectly tuned. Every weapon has a purpose, and the movement, with the double dashes and the meat hook on the shotgun, is just buttery smooth. The Doomslayer doesn't talk, but his actions speak loud enough. He's there to rip and tear, and the game makes sure you feel every bit of that power. The soundtrack by Mick Gordon is basically heavy metal concentrated into a liquid and injected into your veins. What's the catch? Some of the platforming sections can be a bit annoying, and the lore gets a little too complicated for its own good sometimes. Who cares about the backstory when you're busy punching a demon's head into its chest, right? It's a game that demands your absolute focus and rewards you with pure, unadulterated fun. It is the gold standard for modern first-person shooters. 8. God of War 2018. We saw Kratos kill the entire Greek pantheon, but seeing him try to be a father? That was the real challenge. God of War 2018 was a massive risk that paid off beautifully. Moving the camera right over Kratos' shoulder made the combat feel so much more visceral and heavy. Throwing the Leviathan axe and calling it back to your hand, I'm not lying, I did that for like 10 minutes straight when I first started. It's the most satisfying mechanic in gaming. The story is a beautiful, intimate journey between Kratos and Atreus. Kratos is struggling with his past, trying to hide his godhood while teaching his son how to survive. The one-shot camera technique, where there are no cuts from the start of the game to the end, makes the whole thing feel like an epic, unbroken movie. The world of Midgard is stunning, filled with Norse lore that feels fresh and mysterious. My only gripe? The boss variety in the main story is a bit low. You fight a lot of the same trolls with different colors, but the optional Valkyrie fights make up for that by kicking your teeth in. It's a mature, emotional, and brutal masterpiece that took a one-dimensional character and turned him into someone we actually care about. If you call yourself a gamer, you have to experience this journey. 9. Elden Ring. Man, how do you even describe Elden Ring without sounding like you're exaggerating? It's basically the final boss of open-world games. From Software took their brutal combat and dropped it into a world so massive and mysterious that it actually felt like an adventure again. I remember stepping out into Limgrave for the first time and seeing that golden tree in the distance. It was overwhelming in the best way possible. The gameplay is all about freedom. If a boss is kicking your trash, you just hop on your horse, Torrent, and go explore a different continent for 10 hours. The sense of discovery is unmatched. You'll find a random well that leads to a literal underground galaxy. It's a game that respects your intelligence. It doesn't clutter your screen with icons. You just see something cool and you go there. Is it hard? Yeah, it's a FromSoft game, so expect to see you died a lot. Some of the late game bosses feel a bit tuned for summons, which might annoy the purists, but the sheer variety of builds means you can be a tank, a wizard, or a samurai. It's a generational masterpiece that proved open worlds don't need to hold your hand to be engaging. It's addictive, beautiful, and absolutely massive. 10. Horizon Zero Dawn. The pitch for Horizon Zero Dawn sounds like something a kid would come up with. What if there were robot dinosaurs? And honestly, thank God someone made it. Playing as Aloy, an outcast looking for her origins, was a breath of fresh air. The world is gorgeous. Nature has reclaimed the Earth, but these high-tech machines are the new apex predators. The contrast between the primitive tribes and the sci-fi tech is just brilliant. The gameplay shines when you're hunting. You're not just mashing buttons, you're using your focus to scan for weak points, setting traps, and tearing off components with your bow. Knocking a disc launcher off a Thunderjaw and using it against him, that never gets old. The story actually surprised me too. I expected a generic save the world plot, but the mystery of why the world ended is actually really smart and high concept sci-fi. My only complaint? The human-to-human combat is a bit weak compared to fighting the machines, and the facial animations in the original game could be a bit stiff. But the world building and the sheer thrill of taking down a mechanical T-Rex make this a must-play. It's a unique take on the post-apocalypse that feels vibrant and alive rather than just brown and gray. 11. Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I know some people say the newer Assassin's Creed games are too big, but man, Odyssey is just a blast. It's less of a stealth game and more of a grand ancient Greek mercenary simulator. Playing as Cassandra, who is definitely the superior protagonist, sorry Alexios fans, feels like being a demigod. The world is absolutely stunning. The blue of the Aegean Sea, the white marble of Athens, it's like a vacation you can play. The gameplay is an RPG feast. You've got loot, skill trees, and naval combat that brings back those Black Flag vibes. The mercenary system, where hunters track you down across the map, adds a nice layer of tension to your exploration. Plus, the story dives deep into Greek mythology, and fighting legendary creatures like the Minotaur or Medusa is an absolute highlight. What's the downside? It's huge, maybe too huge. If you're a completionist, this game will eat 100 hours of your life and still ask for more. Some of the side quests feel a bit like busy work, but the core loop of exploring the islands and building your legend is incredibly satisfying. It's the ultimate Odyssey, where you truly feel like you're carving your name into history. 12. Grand Theft Auto 5. We can't have a must-play list without the Titan itself. Grand Theft Auto 5 has been around for over a decade, and there's a reason people are still playing it. Rockstar created a caricature of modern-day Los Angeles in Los Santos that is still the benchmark for urban open worlds. The three protagonist system was a masterstroke. Switching between Michael, Franklin, and Trevor keeps the story fresh and allows for different perspectives on the chaos. The gameplay is the ultimate sandbox. You want to fly a jet? Go for it. You want to play a round of golf? Sure. You want to plan a massive multi-stage heist? That's the meat of the game. Trevor, in particular, is a force of nature. He's basically the personification of how most people play GTA, pure, unhinged mayhem. The writing is sharp, cynical, and still hits close to home even years later. The only real issue is that the movement can feel a bit heavy compared to more modern shooters, and we've all seen the map so many times we could probably drive it blindfolded. But as a package, it's a technical marvel that shouldn't be able to run as well as it does. It's the definitive do-whatever-you-want game, and if you haven't experienced the story of these three criminals, you're missing out on a cultural phenomenon. Number 13. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. Look, there's a reason people won't stop talking about this game even years later. The Witcher 3 is the gold standard for how to build a world that feels lived in. You play as Geralt of Rivia, a monster hunter for hire, but you're not just some hero. You're a guy trying to navigate a world that's often more monstrous than the creatures you're paid to kill. Every tiny side quest feels like a mini movie with its own moral dilemmas and twists. The gameplay is a deep dive into preparation, brewing potions, coating your blade in oils, and studying your bestiary. But the real star is the writing. You'll set out to kill a monster and end up in a deep political conspiracy or a heartbreaking family drama. The world of Velen is muddy, war-torn, and depressing, yet I couldn't stop exploring it. And let's not even talk about Gwent. I probably spent 20 hours just playing cards in taverns instead of finding Ciri. What's the catch? The combat can feel a little floaty compared to something like Sekiro, and Geralt sometimes moves like a tank when you're trying to pick up a single herb, but the storytelling? It's unmatched. When you finish the Blood and Wine expansion and Geralt looks at the camera, man, it's like saying goodbye to a lifelong friend. It's a masterpiece that every RPG fan owes it to themselves to finish.
14. The Last of Us Part 1. This isn't just a zombie game, it's a masterclass in human emotion. The Last of Us Part 1 tells the story of Joel and Ellie, and their journey across a collapsed America is one of the most intense things I've ever experienced. The prologue alone is enough to wreck you emotionally, and the bond that forms between these two, born out of necessity and turning into a father-daughter love, is just beautiful. The gameplay is all about desperation. You're scavenging for every brick, bottle, and bullet. Every encounter with the clickers or hostile survivors feels like it could be your last. The sound design is terrifying. That clicking noise will have you holding your breath in real life. The remake, Part 1, makes the world look hauntingly gorgeous, with nature reclaiming the cities in a way that's both peaceful and scary. Is there a downside? Some of the ladder and plank puzzles can feel a bit repetitive after a while. But you aren't playing for the puzzles, you're playing for those quiet moments of dialogue and the brutal, shocking ending that people are still arguing about today. It's a game that proves video games can be just as sophisticated as the best cinema. It's a gut punch that you'll be glad you took. 15. Cyberpunk 2077. Man, talk about a redemption story. Cyberpunk 2077 had the roughest launch in history, but now it's a god-tier experience. Night City is the most vertical, dense, and visually overwhelming city I've ever stepped into. As V, you're a mercenary with a digital ghost, played by the legend Keanu Reeves, stuck in your head. The vibe, the music, the neon-soaked rain, it's pure cyberpunk aesthetic perfection. The gameplay after the 2.0 update is incredible. You can be a netrunner hacking everyone's brains, a street samurai deflecting bullets with a katana, or a solo with arm cannons. The freedom to build your character is massive. The characters you meet, Judy, Panam, Johnny Silverhand, feel like real people with real stakes. Every time I ride my bike through the city at night with the radio blasting, I just have to stop and take a screenshot. What's not so great? Even now, you'll see the occasional Bethesda-style glitch, and the police system, while improved, still feels a bit basic. But the story and the sheer immersion of being in that world are none too. It's a cautionary tale about corporate greed that's as fun as it is thought-provoking. If you haven't been back to Night City since launch, it's time to go back. 16. Ghost of Tsushima. If you've ever wanted to be in a samurai movie, this is your game. Ghost of Tsushima is one of the most beautiful games I have ever seen on a screen. Sucker Punch made a genius move by using the wind to guide you instead of a messy HUD. You just follow the breeze and it leads you to a golden forest or a hot spring. It makes the exploration feel so organic and peaceful. The gameplay is a perfect blend of honorable samurai and dishonorable ghost. The swordplay is razor sharp. The standoff mechanic makes you feel like an absolute boss as you take down 3 enemies in one blink. Watching Jin Sakai struggle with breaking his code to save his people is a really compelling arc. And man, the Kurosawa mode in black and white, that's just the cherry on top. My only gripe? Some of the open world activities like following foxes or cutting bamboo can get a bit checklisty if you're trying to 100% the map. But when you're in a duel in a field of red flowers while the leaves are blowing around you, you won't care. It's a love letter to Japanese culture and cinema that is as fun to play as it is to look at. It's a must play for the visuals alone. Man, talking about Silent Hill 2 is like talking about sacred ground in the horror community. Remaking a masterpiece like this was a huge gamble, but they absolutely nailed it. The atmosphere in this game is so thick with fog and dread that it feels like the town is breathing down your neck. You play as James Sunderland, a man who receives a letter from his deceased wife, and the psychological journey you go on is just heavy. It's not just about jump scares, it's about guilt, grief, and the monsters we create in our own heads. The gameplay was modernized perfectly. The over-the-shoulder camera makes the combat feel desperate and clumsy in a way that fits a guy who isn't a soldier. Every encounter with a lying figure or the iconic pyramid head feels like a struggle for survival. The sound design is what really gets you. The static on the radio and the distant metallic clanging will have you checking your own hallway at night. It's a beautiful, disturbing, and deeply emotional experience that stays with you long after the credits roll. If I had to nitpick, some of the puzzles can be a bit cryptic even for seasoned players, and the pacing in some of the middle sections feels a little drawn out. But honestly, the payoff is worth it. It's a game that respects the original while bringing it to a whole new generation. If you want to see what survival horror is like when it has a soul, and a dark one at that, this is a mandatory play.
18 is Clair Obscur, Expedition 33. To finish our list, we have something that feels completely fresh, Clair Obscur Expedition 33. This game is a visual treat. The art style is inspired by the Belle Epoque era of France, and it looks like a painting come to life. The premise is wild. Every year, a paintress wakes up and paints a number on a monolith, and everyone of that age turns to smoke. You're part of Expedition 33, a group trying to reach her and end the cycle. It's high concept, original, and deeply compelling. The gameplay is what really hooked me. It's a turn-based RPG, but it's not passive. It has this reactive system, where you have to time your dodges and parries in real time during the enemy's turns. It keeps you on your toes and makes the combat feel incredibly engaging and stylish. The characters are well-voiced and have a real sense of urgency, which makes the stakes feel massive. It's proof that the turn-based genre still has plenty of room for innovation. The only downside is that the difficulty can spike pretty hard if you don't master the parry timing early on. It demands your full attention. But man, the bosses are some of the most creative designs I've seen in years. It's a game that takes risks and succeeds, offering a unique blend of strategy and action. For anyone looking for something that breaks the mold of modern AAA games, this is an absolute must-play. And that's the list, guys. 18 games that, in my opinion, every single gamer out there needs to experience at least once. Whether you're into the brutal difficulty of Sekiro, the emotional weight of The Last of Us, or the massive freedom of Elden Ring, there's something here that will leave a mark on you. But hey, that's just my take. Now I want to hear from you. Which of these games is your absolute favorite? Or did I leave out a title that you think is a crime to miss? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I love